This story goes back a few years when I travelled with the congregation on one of their trips. There was a wealthy gentleman who used to tell us stories about the local mafias and about his first trip with the group. He would always say the first time he went with the congregation, they went to this village, a pretty remote place, and the local mosque that was almost derelict. He and a few others went and cleaned the mosque, and he was made into the head of that effort. He organised cleaning, started the prayers, and tried to revive things. The village barely had any practicing Muslims, people that didn't really know much about Islamic practices. So whenever our group went on these trips, the routine was that two young men were chosen to handle khidmat to take care of food and drink for the entire congregation. Those two boys had to manage everything, from cooking to serving. When they would ask the group what they wanted to eat, the usual answer was anything you decide. And when the food came, it was incredible, special dishes, biryani, all the rich, festive foods you'd expect at a big religious gathering. Everyone ate well. The same thing happened on the second day. The third day, every place they moved to, they tried to reproduce the hospitality. When they reached another village with a mosque, they picked the same two boys again because they had done such a good job before. The villagers contributed money and rations, and somehow the food was always abundant and special even in places where you wouldn't expect it. This made Amit Sahib suspicious. He kept calling those two boys aside and asking, "Listen, why are you feeding us so lavishly? Who is paying for all this? Why don't you ask for extra money? How is this happening?" The boys' reply was strange. They would say, "We're not ordinary people, we are different, we are here to serve, we want to do the best service we can for you." They insisted that Amit Sahib and others shouldn't tell the locals about how they were being treated, because if word got out, some people might leave the congregation or become unsettled. So they asked for secrecy. After that, things in the mosque started changing. The atmosphere inside became more intense and, in a way, more segregated. The sermons of the Bain were delivered very regularly by the senior Maulana, and there was a sense that something systematic was happening that ordinary people didn't notice at first. These activities were taking place at the Madani Masjid. This was in Karachi, and it felt like there was a regular rhythm to everything: cleaning, speeches, night vigils, and so on. They also started to organise people very methodically. Every day they would take pictures of the congregation. They assigned people to particular places in the prayer hall. They even gave you a pillar number or a spot number. They organised people into small groups, telling someone, "You are responsible for 5 people," or "You belong to this area," and they kept records and photos of who was where. It seemed like those photos and lists were used later for other purposes even, it felt, for tracking people beyond the local area, perhaps for contacts abroad. In short, there was a lot of documentation and distribution going on. I remember once, while I was still in Pakistan, I helped set up a small meeting space. A Maulvi showed us some of those photos and records. Everyone got excited and started asking questions. After I returned and told the elders about it, they kept up the routine. In the mosque there was someone like a captain who would walk newcomers through everything in detail. They would show you how things worked openly and explain the practices. We were contacted through our own mosque, so our leaders arranged talks with the senior Maulana. When we asked him about it, he explained that there were nightly vigils, that some people kept special watches and did extra worship. He mentioned specific data. For example, June 21 was referenced and pointed out groups of people who were, in his words, dedicated and spiritually advanced, even suggesting that some of them had merit for Jannah. That was how they framed it. Some folks were doing intense ibadat, so they were treated differently. People used to ask us, when you travelled with them, didn't you ever feel like something unusual was happening? Like, were there any spiritual presences travelling with you? The answer I heard from the leaders was practical. They advised how to sleep and rest on those trips. They told us things like, don't sleep in the corners, don't sleep on the edges, sleep in the middle, and follow the sleeping arrangements they suggested. The reason given was that some people were kept awake in worship, and sleeping in the middle would avoid disturbing the worshippers and keep order. That's how the travel days went on, regulated, organised, with particular rules and customs they expected everyone to follow. That's the gist of what I remember. Okay, thank you.